Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Schuster and Ranking Member DeFazio, for holding this important meeting. I'm a new member of this committee, and I look forward to working with both of you and the entire committee to provide a 21st century infrastructure for our 21st century businesses and communities. Thanks to all of the witnesses who have testified here today. I am the founder of the Florida Ports Caucus and the chair of the Florida Ports Caucus, and we do a lot of work with ports. But when I first arrived to Congress, I would go to the floor every day, and my mantra for Congress would be jobs, jobs, jobs. And I was concerned because we were unable to pass a jobs bill. And I had two great jobs bills that would create jobs, because I believe that if we employ everyone in our country, then we would have a better country. We wouldn't have so many people looking to government for help. Everyone would be working. In my opinion, I think that I want to ask a question, first of all, to Mr. Smith, and I want to first thank him for creating so many good jobs in my district for my constituents. I represent Miami-Dade County, which is home to several FedEx shipping centers and a significant regional hub for Latin America and the Caribbean, which we were happy to tour. I want to also acknowledge you for the diversity of your workforce. I was able to tour your operation in Paris, thanks to my dear friend, your Senior Vice President, Gina Adams. It was an extraordinary experience. In your written testimony, you warned that FedEx would not be able to continue to help grow the economy and create jobs without improved infrastructure. And I was happy to hear you mention education. I'm a former school principal, so I know how important it is for children to be educated to take the next level of jobs that we create. Could you please elaborate on the impact of delayed infrastructure investment on your company and sector? And also, you said that you believe user fees would help. And are you interested, or would you approve higher user fees to get this done? Because everything is stuck.
Well, the answer to the last question is yes, we would support higher fees, and as I've mentioned several times, we've supported an increase in the federal gasoline and diesel tax to do that. Let me give you one factoid which will just bring this in perspective. All of us know what it's like to buy a tire for our car. Over the past 20 years, our over-the-road vehicle tire utilization has been cut in half. So we're using almost 100% more tires to produce the same mileage of transportation. Why is that? Because the road infrastructure has so many potholes in it, it's tearing up tires faster than what was the case before. The congestion, Mr. DeFazio's clock up there, is a real cost to business and a real cost to consumers. The cost of congestion is getting worse. It's preventing time-certain deliveries, which are important for things for hospitals and things of that nature. So there's a cost to the public, there's a cost to FedEx, there's a cost to UPS, there's a cost to Cargill by delaying these expansions and required upgrades and maintenance of the highway system. So thanks for your job as a teacher. My brother was a teacher. After parent, it's the most important job in the country, in my opinion.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Trumka, in your written testimony, you mentioned reducing poverty and inequality as a guiding principle for infrastructure investment. In your opinion, what infrastructure investments and policy reforms would best support poverty reduction?
I think there's two facets to that answer. One is we talked about automation and new technology, and that's always been important for a dynamic economy, and it's important in transportation. But that said, we can't use technology as an excuse to ignore the costs to workers, communities, and safety. If anything, technology should be used to combat inequality, not to ignore or accelerate the problem. And so one point I would make is, as this committee looks forward, you ought to strike, I look forward to working with you so that we can strike the right balance between workers' safety and progress. The system sometimes locks people out, and so we have to get them skills at the lower level. We've started in our apprenticeship program going back and doing remedial courses, offering remedial courses so that applicants have the necessary math skills, writing skills, reading skills, English skills to be able to pass our entrance exam and get into the community, make sure everybody has that opportunity. Also, if you do public-private partnerships and you don't follow the protections of 13C and Davis-Bacon and domestic preferences and all of those things, tax dollars will be used to drive down wages, which will increase poverty in a lot more areas. And so we would guard against those as well. And the projects ought to be spread through the country so that there's a geographical look at it, so that rural Americans are getting a shot at some of the jobs and some of the better infrastructure, and thus then looking more attractive to business to come into some of those rural areas. And we would urge the committee to look at that geographical spread so that a large segments of Americans aren't just locked out, that we don't just do this in populous areas, but we look at the rural areas as well.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Mr. Lewis from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.